1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Mad Sounds. I'm gonna try that again. To another episode of the Mad Sounds podcast. We talk about music and other whatevers. Today, we're actually gonna try having a structure for once and like doing things like a good podcast would. Yeah. I'm Mark.
I'm Johnny. I'm here. I'm here to talk about musics.
Indeed. So you may notice there was a bit of a gap, and unlike the past times there was a gap, that was actually a conscious decision. So what happened, because I kind of gave little hints about it with the last episode, but basically, as you know, Johnny, like we tried to record a couple episodes in one session, and by the end of it, I was just gone. It was definitely not. I definitely overshot myself, I'd say.
Yeah, it was an experience. That's for damn sure. We sat down and tried to do a couple casts, and it just didn't work out. Didn't play into anything. Nothing came to fruition of it.
And there was the Chester Bennington talk, which, lasted a good kind of mini ep, but then everything after that, and I'll put the blame 95 at least % on me for that. I just totally checked out after a while. We tried talking about movies and some other album stuff, but it just kind of it
kind of flopped.
Yeah,
it happens.
But the fact that it took that long for an episode that is that's worthy of chucking, says a lot of good stuff about what we're doing here.
Oh yeah, we run quality here. We make sure
Quaaludes.
that we run Quaaludes through my bloodstream, and that is what keeps me going. Every day, all the nights, I just get up and I do a Quaalude, and then I start drinking my fruit punch, because it's what I gotta do to get myself to Vegas someday on the Vegas Strip.
Well, listen, if I'm gonna need to get some stamina while I'm doing this podcast, we may need to resort to that.
It's not a fun life, Mark. I would not recommend Quaaludes to anybody who really, there's going to be someone who listens to this and is like, I don't appreciate your outright just tomfoolery on those who are addicted to Quaaludes.
Your endorsement. Oh no, your stereotyping of the marginalized Quaaludites.
Yeah, my uncle died to Quaaludes, so I don't appreciate what you have to say about those who take Quaaludes. I don't appreciate your interpretation of what those on Quaaludes are, because it's nothing what they're like. All right, I do Quaaludes 4 times a day, buddy, and I've turned this joke into another joke. That is what I do here. We're gonna talk about music,
and that's why we keep you around.
That's why I'm here. I'm the funny guy. You're the straight man, and I'm the not straight man.
If anything, I thought you were the one that kind of keeps me as a coherent host. See, case in point right there. You let me talk for on my own for 10 seconds, and that's what happens.
I mean, it's a balancing act. It's like the court system. Only we're not biased against white people. We hate everybody. And love everybody. Hey.
That's a commentary. So anyway, what we want to start out with, actually, we were giving a serious update. Listen, everyone. Gotta give that sigh. Get the people interested in saying that this is not your standard thing. Okay. So you may have noticed that about a month ago, I said I was going to rebrand everything, and now I actually did. Yeah.
We have a new
brand. At the time I recorded this, I did it last night. The Spinner Reviews is no more. Spinner Reviews can't come to the phone right now. I'm not going to finish that reference because it doesn't deserve it.
It doesn't at all. It's pretty fucking
But you get
bad.
the idea. You get the idea.
Yeah, the idea is gotten, and it's not needed.
You know
Taylor
what?
Swift, no.
Yeah. You know what? I gotta say, last night I was talking with my friend Nathan, who you guys may remember was on here a while ago for a couple discussions we had, and I was talking with him about you know what it was. So in the past we've talked about how he's a big fan of Max Landis. And that quote unquote news story, kind of clickbait story, came out recently that John Landis wasn't really a fan of the idea of his son remaking his movie. Nathan told me yeah, I'm not really as huge a fan of Max as I used to be, even though I am pretty excited for this. So I just started going like, man, I miss the old Nathan. And then I started going on like and I basically made up like a whole verse parody of that.
Yeah.
And he just responded with, oh, I'm sorry, the old Nathan can't come to the phone right now. Why? Because he's dead. And I just responded, bad meme. And that made me come to a realization. What if, hear me out, Taylor specifically came up with that bridge just to be a retort meme to the I Love Kanye meme?
I doubt that, only because the rest of the song is just as cringy as that moment.
True, but I mean, here's the thing: if it's at least more believable than the whole release on the same day as Kanye's mom's death thing.
That's just a conspiracy. You know,
Yeah.
I like that holds no merit. What you're presenting with this whole Taylor meme thing being intentional is ludicrous for sure, but there are a group of people like the Kanye's death mom thing, but there's more people that could believe that, because Taylor's always been this kind of, like the videos she's been doing with AT&T to promote this record, to cross-promote this record. She's playing this like fun, quirky teen star girl, even though she's in her fucking 20s, and it's like, Taylor has cat, Taylor loves cat, Taylor fought, like, I've watched one of the videos and I was like, this is not how you promote an album. This, like, Andy Samberg was in it for some reason. It was just weird. It was really weird. It had this attempt at trying to be funny, and it dragged some genuinely funny people through the mud with it by being involved.
I mean, I'm glad that I don't know about that. But I mean, I know that like her, like, the album covers on like UPS trucks now. It's getting weird. It's bizarre. It's the whitest way to promote an album I've ever seen. We're gonna put you on UPS trucks, and we're gonna partner with AT&T to make videos about you with cats.
That
sounds like a documentary that would be parodying commercialism in culture. Like, they would do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, branding. Yeah, so Spinner Reviews is basically no more. Is now Mad Sounds. I think it's a good kind of channel name to put videos on anyway, so it just seemed to work out. And then I put like a whole new banner and stuff.
All Mad Sounds all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, every other week, which would be more all the time than before. So
yeah, all Mad Sounds some of the time on my Yeaties box. I'm gonna.
that was a reference to something we did before we started recording. That's like a cardinal sin of bit riffing.
You know what? I love transparency, and you know what I do? I love to be transparent and bring up the whole scenario. This isn't just a slice of a conversation. It's It's just a recorded piece of a big conversation that's going on. That's all this is. You know, we're just two boys and we're having a good time. I don't know what my voice is doing today, by the way. I have no idea. I'm just talking. But anyway.
Just a couple friends and we're having a good time. Hashtag SP7 for streamies.
Yeah. Hashtag get our Supty boy. Get old Supty the win, people.
Let's get the chicken boy his just chicken desserts. Anyway, so today, obviously, because it's been quite a while since we've actually like talked about like albums and crap.
Yeah.
For this whole thing, it's basically going to be one giant what have you been listening to lately. We're going to start off with, it's just going to be like a whole roundup of stuff that we've been checking out. Really just new albums with the exception of the first thing I'm going to be talking about. And we're going to start out with just like the stuff that we both listened to. And then afterwards, we're just kind of going to go rapid fire back and forth at each other, the stuff that only we've heard.
So... The first piece of news we're going to talk about is a news story that broke, what was it, last week before? It was recently.
So, yeah.
We've had another death in the industry, people.
Yeah. We're going to go over this like a little bit more briefly just because there isn't quite as strong connection on our ends, I don't think.
What do you mean? I fucking love them, man!
That Dan.
I love his steel! Fuck! He had it! My waveforms are out of control right now. I'm sorry. future Mark.
I'm talking about Walter Becker. God,
I love some
we're so
steel.
disrespectful.
I love some Dealey Stan. You know, Dealey Stan. No, on the real though, I do like Steely Dan. Yeah, I do love Steely Dan. I don't love them, but I like them a lot. I think they're a fun band.
Yeah. So obviously I was familiar with the hits.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people are, and I'd been meaning to get around to more of their stuff. Actually, so like I think I mentioned before, I have like this whole stack of vinyl records in my closet that I hadn't gotten around to yet. One of the records in there was Asia, which from what I understand is like their most acclaimed record. So I figured, you know, better time than any to go and check that out. And yeah, it's pretty great.
Oh yeah, they're a good band.
Like specifically, like, you know, you went and you've like studied like music, like recording and production, stuff like that. And that specific album is apparently like what like turntables are tested using.
One of the albums, yeah. There's
yeah, it's apparently like the gold standard for like sonic like.
There's a couple albums like that. Yeah, that's one of them. Rage Against the Machine's debut is actually it's one of them as well because everything is just mixed so pristine. Yeah, the Rage Against the Machine debut. It's another one of those where like it's mixed. It did not need a remaster. It's mixed so pristinely and so cleanly and crisply that it's a standard for listening to how a studio system sounds. It's one of those records, and that's another one. Steely Dan's Asia. It's a good record.
It's fascinating to me that like it's the first album that would be that good. You'd think that like as they went on,
it's just because the longer they went on, they started to muddle a lot more with effect work, and their mixing wasn't. I wouldn't say it wasn't as balanced. You know, the first record, everything is at its own like place on the first record for Rage Against the Machine, and it's a marvel of mixing and mastering. It's really good.
Okay,
but Steely Dan, they're a great band.
Yeah. So it is one of those like perfect like 70s like 7-track like just under 40 minutes like knowing exactly how to do it. That's how you do it for long songs on an album. By the way, hint, the next thing we're going to be talking about.
Oh yeah. Oh wait. Oh no. Fuck you. I love that shit, man. Fuck off.
We're gonna talk about the pros and cons.
No, we're talking about all the pros. Suck me off. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I mean, you should have asked like 4 months ago, man.
I'm just saying. So fucking all right. Yeah, Steely Dan. They wrote really good songs, and I'm sorry that he's gone. Neither of us clearly are the biggest fans, but we respect their work and their music.
How I initially kind of got a sort of interest in Steely Dan, I suppose, was the Nerdwriter video on Deacon Blues, where he sort of really broke down the odd chord formations and like and the sort of subversive lyrical themes of like someone in a sort of stable suburban environment wanting to live a more dangerous kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you get those sort of themes going throughout the record. So I'm
always down to jive a little bit about the Steely Dan on my listography excursions. You know, like you, I like what I had heard from Steely Dan in the past, but it wasn't until I started doing the backlog of my listography ongoing book list thing, whatever, that I really started to get an appreciation for Steely Dan's music outside of the little I had heard. I haven't like binged one of the records in a while, but they're good.
Yeah, and of course, it's definitely a good album to have in a vinyl collection, just to be like, you know, is my turntable working okay? Okay, let's just, you know, because I've had this thing for like 5 years or something, so
yeah,
I needed an album like that to really make sure that, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Saying, but anyway, let's move on to the albums that we've both been checking out lately. What have you been listening to lately? What are the songs that you just gotta play me? The question comes up weekly, nightly, daily. So what have you been listening to lately? First one, I don't really know. Were you like an LCD Soundsystem fan prior to a month ago? Because I feel like if so, you should probably be the one to start us off here.
Yeah, I like me some LCD Soundsystem. I think that they're a good sound. They're a good time. Like, they were an interesting continuation of sounds that weren't really explored throughout the entirety of the 90s. Like that real fun pseudo Talking Heads influence that kind of died out in the 90s was a really nice thing. While I didn't listen to it when they dropped, I had listened to them, in bits of my later years in high school and early college years. And I like them. I think James Murphy's a great writer, and I like their sound. And I think he's a great producer too.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's done some really good work outside of LCD Soundsystem, but the band themselves are great. And actually, while listening to the new record, I had gone back and re-listened to a couple of their other records, like This Is Happening. And yeah, I still think they're amazing.
Yeah, okay. So I'd always, just because, like, I got into the whole indie music world in 2011, like, naturally, their whole, finale and stuff was the big story in that whole blogosphere world. But, just because they obviously never released anything since then, I never really found the opportunity to really get into them, even though I'd always, heard about their legacy and stuff.
Yeah.
But just about a month ago, I checked out This Is Happening, just, in preparation for this album. And I did really enjoy that. Because I definitely kind of get, like, there's, like, a very unique kind of science behind how he, like, constructs a song and, like, how to make certain repetitions work. And, like, the sort of way that he would just kind of go outside, like, what would be traditionally singing on a song to sort of, like, give this rambly talking or, like, more low-key sort of murmury kind of delivery. I don't know.
It's very David Byrne-esque.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, kind of eclectic touch to it. Definitely understand why that got the claim it did. And, yeah, I think it's a great record. So, that being said, I just want to preface, like, I did really enjoy that record. I did really enjoy the singles from this as the album was coming out.
Melon gave this a bad review too. So hang on. Feeling like shit.
Man, I was gonna give a big preface. Okay, bottom line, this kind of bored the crap out of me.
Yeah, see, I don't agree. But I get it. This isn't a point against the album, even if I do like the album. I didn't realize I had the album on shuffle the first time I listened to it, and I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. I was about 5 tracks in, and I was like, wow, this sounds really nice. And I was like, wait a minute, this is track 7? What the fuck?
Oh, no.
It does not sound like it's... Yeah. So I feel like the flow of the album is a little samey, but I get why the album sounds like it does. I get why James Murphy was like, look, I know we're known for, like, upbeat, dancey, pseudo-edgy, tongue-in-cheek music, but I don't think we should be writing that in 2017. We should try to be a little more prolific, and I think with a title like American Dream, having these very sad, somber-ish, while still dancey, tracks that sound very ethereal and dreamlike, I think it makes sense as a concept, and I think for the concept they're going for, they executed it very well.
I mean, honestly, like, the first time or two I listened through it, like, and this thing's 68 minutes long, I think, so it's very, although, even though they did put in a lot of the same techniques, I'd say, as they did on This Is Happening, like, I found this album, like, a lot more patience testing. And that, like, and here's the thing, like, because like, I feel like a lot of the strength for, like, why a lot of the tracks on an album like This Is Happening, like, managed to go 7, 8, 9 minutes is, like, it was for different reasons. Like, sometimes it would sort of have a nice kind of build where it's, like, just when you were starting to check out, like, a new instrument would come in, or, like, James would get a lot more intense in his delivery. Sometimes, like, there would be a really crazy kind of story or theme to it that would just keep you invested. Or sometimes, like, it would just have a nice, freaking tight, dancey groove to it. Sort of in the same way that, like, in the old days, like, in the 70s and 80s, there would be, like, these extended dance mixes on, like, 12-inch singles that were, like, a 10-minute version of a 4-minute song, and yet somehow it just works because for the groove that it has throughout it, it just works for that. I think that it's a little bit trickier when you go more more low key, more, I guess, because I don't even want to say the somber moments are really what killed it, because like I was a big fan of How Do You Sleep and and the title track American Dream. Those are a couple of my favorites because I used to, for sure, like those brought in some darker elements. But I'm trying to think of like, because I just think this album is really like middle loaded in a weird way, because I think that the real hot streak of the album comes in How Do You Sleep, Tonight, Call the Police. Those are like that's like the highlight portion of the record for me. I thought it started off real. I think that a lot of the reason why I was kind of bored more for the first couple listens than the third listen where I really delved more into it is that the first couple tracks are a couple of my least favorites.
See, I think that's interesting because, like, I did start it off in the right spot when I started off playing it. I started it with Oh Baby, but I think Oh Baby's a great fucking tune.
I mean,
like,
honestly,
I think...
I think that... I'm sorry, I just think it kind of leads back to what I was saying before, like, those work for those reasons, whereas this is going on for, like, 6+ minutes, and it's just, like, him kind of slurring over a flat synth tone and like some brighter synth tones that don't really blend in all that well, and it just didn't really rub me the right way, really.
See, I disagree wholly. I think the song is good. I think the song is great. But that's just me. I think it starts the record off well and it sets the stage well for the album. I like, and again, it plays into that dreamlike atmosphere that carries itself throughout the record well. I get why some don't like it. I get why Fantano didn't like it, but I think it's a little less than This Is Happening. It's definitely my least favorite record of theirs, but not by a large margin. Like, I have them both at the same rating. I think it's a good record. It's not as consistent as like Sounds of Silver or even their debut, but it's got enough in there to wow me for every time I've revisited.
Okay, that's fair. And I guess part of why I just felt like a lot of kind of recycling from something like This Is Happening, I guess that feeling first came just because like, and maybe it just happened because like, This Is Happening was the first time I like really delved into their sound, so that whole style and like mentality of how James writes stuff wasn't fresh to me, wasn't all that like fresh or like shocking to me when I was getting into this, so that could be on me. But I at least felt like that feeling that there was some recycling came with the second track. I'm forgetting the name now, since I'm just looking at my iTunes to the songs I kept. But
gotcha.
But when I was listening to it, I was just like, this is just Pow Pow again. What the hell?
Well, no, I will agree. There is some retreading on there. I think his writing. I think what shocked me the most is that his writing worked really well within the context of these changes. It's a record that works for me, and that's all I gotta say about it.
Yeah, what I thought was funny is that like I haven't seen Fantano's review, and apparently he wasn't a fan of Call the Police and American Dream, whereas I was expecting to like this album a lot, actually, just because I did like those two songs when they first came out, especially like on SNL, like when there was that huge band brought out and stuff. I mean, if anything, like I will say my favorite. I didn't listen to any other singles from that, so I listened to Tonight for the first time when I was listening to the full album, and that might be my favorite out of the LCD Soundsystem songs I've heard. That might be my favorite one I've ever heard, honestly. Okay. Like just right. If anything else, just because like it has that kind of upbeat those kind of grooves that would have been on like a This Is Happening, but maybe a little bit more polished. But also like the lyrical themes, I think sort of like at first it's sort of just like making fun of, a lot of the pop songs say the word tonight, but then it sort of takes this huge deep dive into like the psychology behind that and like the human condition. It just got into some weird kind of rabbit hole places that I just found kind of addictive after a while.
Yeah, no. I think you should really check out some of their back catalog, because if you like This Is Happening, you'll love their back stuff more. It's got more of a tone that I feel like would resonate more with you, and they're more akin to a lot more of the stuff on This Is Happening.
And again, that's not to say that I didn't like some of those darker, slower moments, like I used to, and How Do You Sleep. Like they kind of brought up some almost like, it's gonna sound like a weird comparison, but the first thing came to mind was like some of Duran Duran's like more darker kind of moments, and like just how like the
I can see that.
just like how the vocal melodies were constructed.
It's the same thing. There's only tonight. Man, life is finite, but shit, it feels like forever. It feels like forever.
But yeah, I hope we don't spend this long on every overlap album here, or else we'll be here all day.
That's why I was trying to wrap up the one.
Sorry, I'll edit, especially the parts where I interrupted you and it's just talking over and stuff.
But next record we listened to together was the, at least for me, heavily anticipated follow-up to their comeback, Death from Above's Outrage Is Now.
For sure.
Which I've been binging a lot lately. Like I'd gone through a kick when it first dropped for the last week when LCD's new record, but when the Death from Above record, that's my record this week. Like I've been latching onto that thing and I haven't been letting go. I fucking love this thing. I like it more than American Dream. I like the change that they made, that Death from Above made more than they did. More than LCDs did. I think it fits their character. I think that the band sounds like I actually re-listened to the comeback record. I listened to The Physical World a couple days ago, and I was like, oh yeah, this doesn't have any of the flair because that this new record does. And like the production even sounds so much more akin to their style. I think it's fucking great.
Yes, same here. And now I'm gonna come from again the more pleb perspective that I still haven't gotten around to their first album, but I was a big fan of The Physical World, and I got into them through that. And I'm gonna say this year has been great for rock duos. Like between this and you're gonna be talking about another one later on. I'm gonna be talking about another one later on. There's also like Japan Droids. Like there's like a lot of duos are filling like the top of my favorite albums of the year bracket. This year in particular.
Spoiler: I won't be talking highly of the other rock duo that I'll be talking about, but that's a spoiler for later in the podcast.
You get the idea. It's funny because like at first I was thinking like, okay, you know, it's just I was ready to sort of construct the narrative of like, you know, the first record was the first record, the second one was the comeback, and then this one is just another Death from Above album. But then like as I was listening to it, like it occurred to me that like there's more of kind of like a swaggering hard rock vibe to a lot of this stuff that like really separates it. Whereas like on The Physical World, you got more of sort of more of like a punk kind of tempo going on with a lot of that stuff.
That's what they were known for on You're a Woman. You're a Woman, I'm a Machine is a very punky record. There's some swagger on it. Like on Sexy Results, there's hints of some swagger there. You're a Woman, I'm a Machine is one of my favorite. It's in my top 100. I fucking love that record. I love the energy. I love the sound. I think that for a band that's just a bassist and a drummer to get that sound out of those two instruments is astounding.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that on The Physical World, but I got that again on on Never Swim Alone. That fucking bass line beats the shit out of you, and it's so good. Like I love Never Swim Alone. I thought Freeze Me was a welcome change because on you know how in The Physical World there's not really a whole lot of keyboard or piano work. There was one instance on the first record where they have a predominant piano, and it's only in the very beginning of the first song. But it sounds so fitting that it's upsetting that it's not on really any of the following record or the record after that. So to have a song that was led by piano from a band that I've been wanting that question answered was so relieving. Like, I love Freeze Me. I think it's a fantastic tune. It's catchy, it's dancey, and the fucking bass solo in it is amazing. I love this record.
Yeah. Like,
I love this record a lot.
I was thinking the exact same thing because like I just saw like all these stupid reactions of like it's not the same because like they're bringing in like and it's weird because like Death from Above's like they're one of those bands that like has such a distinct sound in the first place just because their setup. It's like when you go from listening to like any other artist like and then you go into this and then people are going like, man, it's not the same. I'm just like, I don't know who else this song could be, even if it does have a little bit more of a keyboard presence. Like maybe there's a little bit of Muse in there. But
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, it still sounds unequivocally like them because that core sound is still there. It's just expanded upon a little bit because bands do that when they grow.
Yes.
But yeah, the record's great.
I just listened to Freeze Me before the album came out, and when Never Swim Alone came out, that one is the one that maybe more than anywhere in here just instantly knocked me back, just with the crispness of the productions. It's even more crisp and tight than really I think anything I've heard from them. And it might seem like a weird comparison because this band was probably really influenced by Death from Above, but I was getting kind of a vibe from the first Sleigh Bells album with just how the rhythm progressed on it and how Seb was just kind of yelling these phrases in the verses. You know what I'm saying?
I could see that, and that definitely. When you listen to their first record, you hear a lot of that because this feels like a proper follow up to Your Woman. Not that the Physical World was bad, I actually still like it after revisiting it, but this feels like an actual proper step forward for this band to make. Their initial sound is intact, but the sound is just changed. It's just groovier, it's swaggerier, and like I said, that's on parts of their debut. It's just not the focus. The focus is punk.
Yeah, exactly. And Nomad was a fantastic example of just kind of punching you in the face with that whole thing, kind of going in a few different directions. And the two tracks that kind of surprised me the most, with the exception of Freeze Me, which it wouldn't really surprise me listening to the album because it was the single, obviously. But yeah. I really especially lyrically, I really dug Moonlight. It was kind of the it was the super because because I feel like a band like this can easily fall into the trap of the lyrics not mattering because you got these grooves going on, man. You got that heavy stuff going on. But there actually was some extra effort put into a song like that where it's this intense story of being stalked by a mob on the street, and then it uses this metaphor of a tidal wave on you, and it's. I also take notes, Portugal the Man. That's how you use a tidal wave reference in a creative way. Call back to my paid video.
That's the funny thing about them, though. Because their debut is kind of a breakup album. It's a record that talks a lot about failing romance and failing love and all that sort of stuff. It's a big lyrical theme. I feel like that the lyrics on here are akin to the same sharp-wittedness and the same well-craftedness that was present on parts of the Physical World, but heavily present on their debut.
Yeah, and some of my favorite moments, lyrically, I found between the Physical World and this were the little moments where they pepper in some sort of commentary. It's funny. I'm going to be making some of the same points that I did about Tonight from the LCD Soundsystem album. The title track was one that really stood out to me, both because it kind of has this sort of droning I don't know if it's keyboard or bass, but that sort of effect going throughout the chorus. Yeah. That was sort of a unique touch, and then my interpretation is sort of examining the two sides of the pros and cons of our current immediate outrage culture. The first verse is people getting is that people are too eager to immediately hop on the hashtag blank is over party, kind of thing, and instantly shame people. Whereas the second verse is sort of talking about, political change and actually taking charge about that kind of thing and doing that through sort of more grassroots which is easier to do nowadays. So yeah. I think it was kind of a nice sort of nuanced take on situation that you don't really see anywhere else on the album, but I'm not really going to fault the rest of the album for that. I just thought it was kind of a cool little unexpected moment, Yeah,
no, the album has it covers a myriad of topics, which was interesting to hear done so well by them because, again, their debut album's a breakup record and their second album's a comeback, which has overtones of that in some of the songs. So it was interesting to hear them kind of actually tackle different lyrical ideas without having this theme to it. Other than we are a band, we're gonna write songs.
Because a Death from Above album, no matter what, is gonna sound cohesive just because only there's only maybe one or two other bands people care about that has the same setup that they do.
Yeah.
So it's naturally gonna stand out as being this is Death from Above.
Yeah, but yeah. In summation, I think it's great. I give it like an 8 out of 10. I don't know if you're saying your ratings, but
I was going 8.5.
Yeah, I think it's great. Oh yeah, it's certainly a high 8 for me, but just out of the general 8 out of 10, it's also an 8 out of 10 for me.
I feel you. There's maybe one. I think there was like one song I wasn't into, but I think generally I was super into it. Let's be a little bit more brief with these ones coming up, and I think that those are actually two of the more combo heavy ones anyway. So, sure. What do you want to talk about next?
We could talk about a record that we probably have split opinions on.
Ooh,
lovely follow up by a New Zealand songstress.
Okay.
By the name of Lorde, came out with her sophomore record pretty recently, a couple months ago. And Mark, you finally got a chance to check it out. What'd you think about it?
Okay, so Pure Heroin, if you guys don't know, was like I think my number 3 record of 2013. So this is a pretty highly anticipated thing for me. Here's the thing where I think that we'll agree on. I don't understand why someone would call it better than Pure Heroin.
Oh no, not at all.
I know that you were saying earlier that a lot of it was on the production for you. Personally, for me, like a lot of it is. So the first album, it was a really kind of unique thing in the themes and the lyrics, sort of the unique perspective she had and the topics she was tackling, whether it be like the media or like how pop culture presents certain ideas and stuff like that. Like I thought, like I hadn't heard a lot of stuff like that at the time, so I instantly gravitated to it. Whereas this is just like, yeah, it's got a lot of the same like technical skill in the lyrical department, some cool imagery, but at the end of the day, it's like it's just another breakup album.
Yeah, here's my issue. Here's my qualm with Lorde, and I've talked about this on a couple different places that are not readily available to view. So this is a place where it can be cemented on the internet. I like the idea of Lorde, and I liked the idea of Lorde when she first broke out. She was a pop star who she was a singer who became a pop star through sheer irony. She wrote songs about not wanting to cater to pop tendencies, and people ate that shit up. The problem is, she is no longer the only person that does that now. She has wrought on this entire set of people who want to attain the same image, the same song style, and the same singing style that Lorde has adorned. And what I was hoping for with this follow-up was Lorde changing. Lorde being like, look, I brought in this new style, and I've reigned queen of it, or I've reigned the originator of it, the progenitor of making it popular. But now I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna bring something new. I'm gonna grow as an artist. And while her soundscape has grown and her song's sounds have changed to something fresh and new, she as a performer and as a writer has not. And that is my biggest issue with this record. I love the sounds on this thing, but I cannot stand the fact that she still sounds like a person who has taken a few Xannies and is falling asleep with a fucking microphone.
I mean, and I think it works on some songs. Like I know that there are some specific songs that we disagree on. Like you said something on Twitter about thinking that Liability is boring, which
it's a little boring. It's all right. I think with a better singer, it would do better.
I think that's one song where the more low key delivery really fits. I do kind of like the move taken to go in more of an upbeat kind of direction. Like Greenlight set my expectations sky high for this thing.
Oh
honestly.
Yeah, I like Greenlight.
Yeah, and then and then that was followed up later on in the album with songs like Supercut and Perfect Places. And I think that if more of the album took this kind of direction instead of sort of like a lot of the album, like, even though I do think this is a solid album, I do have, I think I have 8 out of the 11 songs here in my iTunes, so it's I think it's solid overall, but I can't help but have this feeling that, I wish that more of it was either super stripped back in a sort of Liability or Writer in the Dark, which is another great one. That's one where I think she really pushes herself, vocally. Yeah. Moments like that, and then sort of contrasted that with the more kind of propulsive moments like Greenlight and Supercut. I think that could have made kind of an interesting balance, but there's also these sort of more mid-pop pop moments between, and I'm not really talking about mid as far as like frequency, but just like mid level, as far as the like everything really, and it just kind of diluted things. I don't really know how else to put it, really.
The songs, the songs that work are like Greenlight and the upbeat stuff. That's because, again, they sound fresh for her especially. But songs like what the fuck is it called?
I mean, personally, my least favorite was Homemade Dynamite, and I can't believe she's making that a single.
Yeah, that sounds like a rehashing of shit from tennis courts. Like that's a song in particular that sounds like a pure heroin rehash.
You're right. I didn't even realize that. And the thing is, Tennis Court is like top 3 favorites on Pure Heroin for me. Like I absolutely adore that song. But yeah, now I think about it, it is basically a lot of the same sort of tricks pulled in some of the sounds and textures and stuff. But just like with a lot less groove and much less interesting themes going on.
Exactly,
and of course, and it was written with Tove Lo, I think, which maybe was kind of a sign that she's not exactly known for her subtlety.
That's part of the problem. Yeah, no, and like that's the thing with Lorde. She's not a bombastic singer. She's not a Charlie XCX. She's not a belter. She's not someone that could wow you, And so having a song like Homemade Dynamite, it doesn't fit her kind of smooth, almost sultry, low key delivery that she puts on everything.
And the thing is, it's not like I wouldn't believe she's a different person than she was in 2013. Like we're like basically the exact same age. I understand I am nowhere near the same that I was when I was 16. But at the same time, like she was writing White Teeth Teens on the last album, and I'm not gonna believe that just like a couple years later you're blowing shit up with Homemade Dynamite. Like that's just so unconvincing. But again, like I do kind of want to be your counterpoint in that I am a fan of a lot of the tracks on here. I think it's just more like how it comes to. I'm more of a fan of like the pieces than the whole, if that makes any sense.
I get that.
Because I really dig how like the Louvre, I don't know how it's pronounced, track 4, how that sort of brings in more of a guitar presence, and it kind of sounds like, and Jack Antonoff produced this album, and songs like that song in particular kind of reminds me of Bleachers. So that's where it was kind of nice to see a little bit of that influence coming in, especially in some of the guitar tones and stuff like that, some of the synth tones. And I don't know, I wish that there were just more elements that popped out on more songs.
I mean, no, I don't really have anything else to add about the new Lorde record. I give it like a 6 out of 10. It's not bad. Yeah. It's just very average to me.
Yeah, you know what it was for me is that, so I ended up going more of a 7.5, and my sort of barometer is that at first I was kind of leaning on an 8 because I did, again, really dig a lot of the stuff on here, but then I started asking myself the question, like, can I comprehend the idea of someone liking this more than Pure Heroin? The answer was no, so I bumped it down a little bit.
I got you.
Yeah.
Broadcast the boom, 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 and make them all dance to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad. I'm just glad you didn't make any South Park references.
Oh, no. I don't watch South Park enough to make South Park references. I'm sorry.
People are still doing that in comment sections, by the way, in 2017. It's really annoying.
It'll happen. It'll keep happening, man. South Park will never go. South Park will never die.
Then again, people are still making gay fish jokes anyway for Kanye, so it's like, why should I expect any different?
Yeah.
But okay, let's go from a pop star that was away for a few years that you wish truly reinvented herself to one that did. Boom.
Yeah.
Kesha.
Let's talk about some Kesha. So I was kind of surprised, not wholly because I listened to Praying when it came out, and I liked it. I think it's the best thing that Ryan Lewis and Kesha have put together in their respective careers. Wow. Which, by the way, if you didn't know,
That's
Ryan Lewis is the pianist on there. I mean, I think the song is like a 7 out of 10 if that means anything. I don't think Ryan Lewis is the next Dre, but I also think Kesha has always been an artist that I've wanted more from, and I'm glad that I finally gotten it. And on the record itself, the title track to Rainbow is one of my favorite songs I've heard this year.
That is gorgeous.
I love the hook of that song. I love the playfulness to it. I love how there's this whimsical nature to how it's delivered while being so empowering at the same time. It is the perfect example of a lot of the themes that are within the record, and I think it's a fitting title.
Yeah, exactly, because like I think that on paper it could have been like some kind of Disney reject, like if you just described it to someone, but just the way that it flows, like especially with the strings and everything, and how it like bursts into these swells as the chorus goes on, like it just works perfectly. But then like, see, what I kind of love is that, like, I mean, the album is, like, unashamedly unfocused, but it totally works.
That's kind of the point, because, like, this is Kesha going, all right, I've spent all of my musical career thus far being under the thumb of someone who has been trying to hold me back from doing what I want to do. So fuck it, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do now.
Yeah, and I think I want to give a little bit of background, so like, on my experience, because, like, you know, like everyone else, I first heard about, you know, like, when I was, you know, 13, watching the VH1 Top 20 Countdown show, and just being like, oh, this is the death of music as we know it, I'm going to go to my classic rock, meh, you know. It was sort of right at that sweet spot, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
but then like you know, I started hearing a couple good things about some tracks on Warrior, you know, as I was getting more into the whole music world and stuff, and I decided to listen to it, and I still don't really like it as a whole, but it's like some of the stuff on that back half, like, is just totally caught me off guard. And then I like ended up digging up like a couple of her like old unreleased songs and being like, hey, she's actually like got a voice and crap. What?
Oh yeah, she's got talent. She's a talented singer. It's just a shame that her talents were used in the worst ways. Like, I was in high school because she popped around 2010. I was graduating high school, and I was you know, I was on YouTube back then, and as the people might know, I was a pretentious metalhead, so I didn't like anything pop. But around the time her second record came out, I was opening up my tastes, and I liked songs like Die Young. Like, I think it's like Todd in the Shadows review said it best. I think there's this looming sense of just dread in the optimism of something like Die Young, that it almost seems like dying young is a certainty, and it's almost sad to her singing it. And it's great. It's a great sentiment.
I'm suddenly connecting everything we're talking about here to that one LZD Soundsystem song tonight. Like, it's like saying the exact same thing. What's happening?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. No, it's true.
James
and that's
gets
why that
us
song
all.
Is great. Yeah. No, James is a fucking genius. But yeah, no, I genuinely, so like to hear and to follow the struggle she had been going through with this lawsuit, and to see this record come out and have it be so good is just almost fulfilling as a fan. You know what I mean?
And you know what? Also, compared to the last record we talked about, which again, I gotta stress, I do like the Lorde album, but I think in comparison, like, you know, when she makes a country song, she makes a country song. When she makes like this freaking ridiculous party song, she makes a ridiculous party rock song with equals death metal. Like, it's...
Yeah.
When she makes a ballad, it's just like a full strip back, like, letting your heart freaking bleed on the bleh kind of thing.
She's unabashedly herself, and that's what I love about, like, again, this record is a big thing for Kesha, not just musically as like a slice of music history. It's something for her to be fulfilled with, because she gets to be her. She gets to show who she is without anybody else's scrutiny, and that's what's beautiful about the record, and that's why I'm glad that, I mean, I don't love every song. I don't think it's a 10, but I mean, when it's great, it's perfect, and that's it's astounding to me that she's had to hide this for so long.
Yeah, because you know what it feels like. It's like she's just been like this. It's like for the last 5 years, she's just been like this geyser with like a giant cork in it, and it's just been building and building, and it's like getting all like plump and like deformed and stuff like that. And I'm not making I didn't mean that in a literal way, but I've seen those YouTube comments. They're awful. Pop people, good God. But it's just like all of a sudden, just like everything is being let out, and it's glorious. even though this was 14 tracks, like you'd think that there would be like a lot of fillers from that amount of tracks, but really the only two I wasn't really a fan of were Godzilla. I thought was just kind of stupid, and him, like I felt like that kind of fell a little bit too much to like current, desaturated pop trends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's one of the songs that Boots was okay. Old Flames was also good. Spaceship, I felt like was a weaker closer. I felt like Praying should have been the closer. I felt like Praying would have been a much better song to cap off this whole album of empowerment with. You know what I mean?
I can see that, but at the same time, I kind of see sort of a weird sort of fractured arc in all this where, like, all the singles were lined up in the first part, and I feel like that's sort of like her kicking, this quote, like this unnamed toxic figure, wink wink nudge nudge, out of her life, and that sort of concludes on Rainbow, and then after that is more sort of trying to find happiness again, trying to find someone else and stuff like that. So and it gets into more, I guess, positively leaning adventures to follow. I
can see that. But in summation, I mean, I gave this is gonna sound really bad, but I give the album like an 8 out of 10. It's great. It's good. Like a higher 8 than LCD, but not as good as Death from Above. To give some context to all of these 8s I'm throwing out there.
That's fair. I'm about that level. I'm probably somewhere around 8.5, just because I guess a lot of that could be the shock factor that I was just so blown away by this that I might need time for it to simmer a little bit and be like, okay, how is it like on its own merits without that history and stuff.
Well, and that's why I've listened to it. Like I listened to it for the first time like a month ago, and so like revisiting it now, it's that wow factor's kind of faded away, and I'm like, all right, yeah, this song's good, but it's not as good as it was when I first heard it. The wow, like it doesn't have as much lasting power as that initial punch.
You'll find a rainbow, baby, trust me, I know. Life is scary, but just put those colors on, girl. Come and play along with me.
Okay, so much like Kesha did from her producer, let's move on from this album. Tish.
Yeah.
Okay, and moving on from an album that features the Eagles of Death Metal, we'll take that Venn diagram onto our next one.
The new Queens of the Stone Age record.
Yeet
for sure. I fucking love this thing, Mark. What do you feel about it?
It's a very good record. I think that you were like a bit more hyped on than me, because like the only other album I've heard from them in full, I'll freely admit, and this might be a cardinal sin as a rock fan, but the only other album I've heard in full from them is like Clockwork, and I feel like that one kind of blew me away more with like its ambition and its atmosphere and stuff. But for more of kind of a straight ahead rock record that this is going for, I really enjoyed this thing.
I fucking adore this thing. I think certain reviewers, I think certain reviewers, not you, are out of their goddamn minds for not loving this thing. If you like the Queens of the Stone Age sound, I love that this thing is just so fun. Like while Death from Above is a very energetic rock band, there's still some sense of dread or sadness to the music. This is just fun as fuck rock music. Like Feet Don't Fail Me like gets me going anytime it comes on. But it's not just rock. There's a sense of tone and atmosphere to it that is underneath all of this bombast and just flair. Like the synth work,
Fortress. That's a case where it's kind of taken back a little bit, but it's still got that kind of, I guess, flow and energy to it, but just in a more kind of subdued and methodically thought out kind of way. Same thing with the Unreborn Again. That was another one of my favorites.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
For a song that goes on nearly 7 minutes, which is, I don't think that's something that Queens of the Stone Age like usually does. I know they have some that push 6.
Yeah, but
songs like that and The Evils Landed, where they really push that, like I think are some of the best moments on here, just because they do go through a lot of different phases.
Oh, for sure, and that's one of the things I really enjoy about this record is it's a lot of killer. Like this is just a tight 7 songs. Even if there's songs that are longer, they justify that with interesting passages, interesting ideas, and it's what I would hope for with a project that, you know, is tackling a pop producer. They have a pop producer on a rock record, and it's totally fits. Like Mark Ronson and Josh Homme, it's like a match made in heaven to me. You know, they both have they're both fans of retro chic. Because like when The Way You Used to Do dropped, and I had heard it, that was exactly what I pictured a combination of the two of them would sound like. And while it had to grow on me, it has grown on me tremendously. That swing, it doesn't let you go, and it keeps a hold of you, and it's
You know what? I have to say, since you brought up that song, this album, in a way, even though I did love Like Clockwork, I think it wasn't my top 10 of 2013. I was still pretty trepidatious going into this record just because of The Way You Used to Do. And the thing is, like, the song itself, like, it isn't bad. It's a little like lighter than you'd expect from Queens of the Stone Age, but I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I think that really like 90% of it was on that just. That guitar tone is just awful, and
see, I fucking love it, man.
it's cool. It's cool. I guess I could see like the vibe they're going for with it, like sort of recapturing like I don't know what like the sort of like a Kinks You Really Got Me, that kind of like just that kind of sort of thin fuzz kind of vibe. I understand that. But I think that, you know, kind of going out of your way with polished elements of the production, it just kind of fell flat for me personally. But it is the only song on the album that I am not really a fan of. The rest, I think, capture a lot of their strengths while bringing in sort of this extra tightness and extra sort of, like you said, sheen that someone like Mark Ronson can bring to them in a way that they didn't really have to this extent before.
Here's my. I mean, I wrote a review on this record, which Mark, if you're so kind, you can link in the description.
Of course.
But one of the things I really want to, I feel like I could explain about The Way You Used to Do for those that I feel like they were going for Mark Ronson style. Like that's what I mean when I say it was exactly what I expected with a Mark Ronson Queens cut, because Mark Ronson's known for his throwback style. He did Uptown Funk, and it has this kind of retro chic to it, but it has a modern gloss. The Way You Used to Do has this retro 50s rockabilly swing throwback chic with a Queens of the Stone Age glaze on it. And that's why it really ticks with me, because that guitar tone is still, while it's a lot more subdued than their more raucous sound, it still unequivocally sounds like a Josh Homme guitar tone and a guitar line. And I feel like that's, like, even though I thought it was about a 6 when it first came out, only because it felt very flat and didn't really go anywhere, I feel like it fits well in the record, and I love it every time I listen to it because of that mindset. But also, I don't know, I think it's Fortress. It's funny you bring up Fortress, because I feel like that's the one song that was my least favorite. I don't hate
it.
Yeah, I think Fortress, it doesn't fit in a good place on the record. I feel like its tone, because it has these more natural string elements, doesn't quite fit in with the rest of the tones on the record. It's not a bad cut. It's still a great cut. But I feel like it comes at an awkward place on the record, and it's not as... It doesn't fit the tone of the rest of the record, if you catch my drift.
Okay, I can see that. I kind of see it as almost like this album's I Sat by the Ocean, in a way, in that sort of tempo and groove that it has going on. The lyrics are also some of my favorites. It's a very sweet song, which is kind of different for this record. I'll definitely give you that. But I found it very... kind of endearing, and also a couple of the other tracks, like I believe Unreborn Again and Domesticated Animals, where you have this like really evocative imagery of like people desperately attempting to re-cling onto their youth, which you know, for a band that's been going on as long as Queens of the Stone Age and is still, you know, as considered cool as they are in the whole rock scene, I think it's an interesting thing for them to cover.
Oh, yeah, no, like, Unreborn Again is my favorite song on the record. I love Unreborn Again. I love its John Carpenter-esque atmosphere paired with, the guitar line the guitars that actually, they felt more akin to like their golden age stuff. Like that guitar line, that guitar tone, how punchy it is, it hit me in a way that I hadn't been hit by a guitar tone like them in a long time, like since I first got into them. So no, I mean, I like the more toned down moments. Like I love Unreborn Again. I love the more softer moments on The Evil Has Landed, and what's the one other really, really long cut by the right before The Evil Has Landed? Yeah, Villain of Circumstance. While they both have like their more up-tempo moments, the more subdued moments aren't bad either. But yeah, I mean, I could talk about this record for fucking ever. I love this goddamn thing. I think it's a continuation on Like Clockwork while invoking some of their more older sounds in a way that still feels fresh. And John Theodore is probably the best addition to the band they could have ever had. He's the drummer, by the way. John Theodore, he used to play in the Mars Volta, and he did a project with Zach De La Roca. I'm a big fan of his drum work, and I think he fits well with the band. I give it like a 9 out of 10. For sure. It's fucking great.
Just gotta move on.
Okay, and the last one that falls into our overlap category is the new one by Neck Deep. Now, Johnny, I know more kind of aware of this band's past work than you are. I did reviews of their first couple records, so I'm curious, like, as you know, more getting into them just through this, what was your perspective?
I haven't really got into pop punk in a while. It's been a hot minute since I've been like, you know, that new pop punk band. I think A Day to Remember was the last remotely pop punk band I got into.
Yeah.
And even they kind of strayed from that. Like, I had heard a couple Neck Deep cuts before this record, like, because, like, we know people that like them and that have told me, like, hey, you should listen to Neck Deep. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I will. Yeah, this is all right. And this new record, I mean, it was all right. The one thing that's really kind of drawn me away from them is how the vocals sound sometimes, and that sometimes is on all of this record. And yeah. I don't really like that too much. It's a little too DeLonge, to put it in one sense. I don't think it's the worst thing I've heard. I don't think it's bad. It's just more average to me. One of the things I do like is that the production is a lot edgier. It's a lot rougher around the edges than even pop punk from like the early 2000s stuff. Like, this sounds a lot rougher than a Golden Age Blink and Golden Age Sum 41. Even if the vocals or the some of the lyrical topics are unequivocally pop punk, I like that this band especially, they have a little more focus on the second word in pop punk and not the first one.
Part of the issue with more modern pop punk bands is that they forget the pop element. Like, I was more talking about like you know, like Your Real Friends, Your Story So Far, you know, your Knuckle Pucks, that whole thing. Whereas Neck Deep, I felt, it's always been kind of an exception, which is why I think it seems like they've gotten like a lot more like mainstream success, at least like in the UK, where they're from. And it's funny you bring up the vocals, because one like little nitpick I've just thought was always kind of funny is that, you know, it always just kind of sounded to me like, and granted, you know, there is a whole thing about how when British people sing, they kind of lose their accents, but it almost sounds like Ben is like goes out of his way to sound like that stereotypical California pop punk sort of inflection. Yeah. And it's more noticeable in some spots than others, like especially the more like spots where it's trying to be a more kind of snotty pop punk banger. Like on this album, a song like Motion Sickness comes to mind.
Yeah.
Which I do still like. It's got a lot of energy. It's just kind of it's a typical pop punk banger, but it's a banger nonetheless.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, you know, it gets also a little bit derivative on Happy Judgment Day, which was my favorite of the two lead singles to come out from this, which were this and Where Do We Go When We Go, which is probably one of my least favorites on here, actually. But Happy Judgment Day, like, if you listen, like, the chorus is basically if you move Basket Case down 2 steps.
Yeah, no, that's pretty spot on.
Yeah, with kind of with lyrics that are basically like, "Yep, this is what they covered on American Idiot."
This is that whole,
and that's it.
This is the abridged guide to pop punk lyrical topics, 101.
And that said, I do still really enjoy it. And so since this is the first album of theirs you've listened to, I should probably say that the first album, Wishful Thinking, it was basically just like straight ahead, just like regular pop punk all the way through. Like about half of it I think was notable, but the rest of it just kind of went in one ear and out the other. The next album, Life's Not Out to Get You, from 2015, which funny you bring up date to remember. Jeremy from that band produced that album actually.
I would say I've listened to songs from that, and I could definitely pick that up from what I've heard from it.
Yeah, and that was a significant improvement. It brought in a lot more experimentation. This album has some experimentation too, but just like in different ways. Like, you know, you got a track like In Bloom, which definitely goes a lot poppier.
Yeah.
You got a track like a Parachute, which is more of a straightforward kind of mainstream rock thing. Not necessarily in a bad way. I think it works for what they're trying to do. And you got your ballads as well. You know, with Wish You Were Here, which it's funny. Like this isn't really a knock against the songs themselves, but I was just thinking like, guys, you can't name your song In Bloom. You can't Wish You Were Here.
Yeah. Well, and I was like listening, like when I was looking at the track listing, I was like, are these covers? Did these guys do like pop punk covers of these songs? Like,
they pulling a Sturgill Simpson here?
Yeah, that's what I was like. Is this a neck deep goes other genres? Is that what this is gonna be? I don't know. I'd have to sit with this album a little more to maybe maybe it'll grow on me. I like my pop punk every now and again. It's just one of those things that I don't foray into, and like I like Knuckle Puck. I forgot that I've listened to them. I like their last record a lot. It was just, I feel like I'd have to sit with this record more to maybe form more of a positive opinion about it, because as of right now, I think it's all right. I think it's a little average.
I have it at about a 7. Like, I think I put it about in the middle of their two previous albums. Like, I still think Life's Not Out to Get You is just more engaging all the way through. But at the same time, this does have like a couple of my new favorite songs to them. Like 1970-something might be like the most lyrically ambitious thing that they've done.
I didn't really like that song at all.
Really?
I thought it was very like haphazard. It felt more haphazardly put together lyrically than it did cleverly put together to me. I don't know. I've heard punk bands do that kind of style of lyrical done like style before, that kind of cadence and stuff, and I feel like those bands have done it better. But I have the record at like a 5 out of 10. I think it's all right. I think it's average. I don't think it's.
That's fair. You're not willing to heap it neck deep in praise. I understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry for that. So let's move on from all the overlap there. And so what we're going to do now is we each have a list of 5 records that just we've heard. And we're just going to sort of rattle off. We're just going to sort of alternate recommendations at each other's faces. Could go on for a minute. Could go on for a few. We linked each other one song each from these, so we have a good idea of where these records are going, like as far as genre and sound and stuff. So yeah, let's get this started. What's the first one on yours, my John boy?
First one on mine. All right, I'm gonna start off positively. I'm gonna start off on a good note, because I get some really bad notes in here. I recently heard the new Dalek record, Endangered Philosophies, and I fucking was blown away by this thing. I liked their last record that came out last year, Asphalt for Eden, but I didn't expect this to be good, because they had just put out an album last year that was their first in a while, and this goes leaps and bounds over Asphalt for Eden. I like that the soundscape feels more akin to their Golden Age stuff. While I didn't mind the drearier, softer toned soundscape of Asphalt for Eden, I like that there's a little more focus on density and burying the listener in these harsh, dense, sometimes still smooth soundscapes for MC Dalek to rap over. The drums on the percussion on it's just stellar. The turntable scratches feel so goddamn rich and it's still a lot of that lyrical prowess that they're known for. I feel like this is a better return to form than their previous record, and I gave it like an 8 out of 10.
Cool. Yeah, judging by the song I heard, it was very socio-political, very underground. You talked about them being like an influence on Death Grips back when we did a whole episode about them, I think. Yeah. And I could totally hear that.
Yeah, they were one of the big progenitors of the subgenre of industrial hip hop, and this is a better example as to why they were.
Yeah, okay. So my first one, we were talking about Lorde earlier, being produced by one Mr. Jack Antonoff. Maybe not formerly, I guess, kind of Fun fame, but, are they a thing now? I don't really know. Anyway, this is his project he's been going. This is Bleachers, his project that he's been having since around 2014. This is the second album. Actually, funny, Lorde's also a sophomore album. This is a sophomore album too. It's called Gone Now. So I was a big fan personally of the first album, A Strange Desire, which had some fantastic tracks on it. I Want to Get Better, Roller Coaster, Like a River Runs, just like a lot of great sort of 80s revival stuff, but it also brought in some more modern electro-pop elements. It was a neat little fusion that also had some kind of in-depth, like, introspective lyrical themes. Gone Now is pretty similar to that. It's weird because there are certain elements of this record that are going to be a hit or miss for people. Like, Strange Desire, it had some sort of fundamentally fractured elements to it, and maybe some of the mixing and some of like the chopped up fragments that would be sampled throughout it, like that kind of stuff. But the songs were still pretty cohesive. Like, you can picture them on the radio, and some of them should have been crossover hits, frankly. But this song this album, on the other hand, like, it gets a lot more bold with its its panning, and it's like just how fundamentally broken, again, it can be sometimes. Like, the song Good Morning, at one point, like, the chorus is like all the instrumentations in one ear and the vocals are in the other, and just has this, and like Jack's also like screaming at random points in the chorus, and it's very off-putting, and I think I can leave it up to the listener to decide whether that's in a good way or a bad way. But in general, I do still think this is a really good follow-up. Has a lot of the same elements that you would want. Has a lot of that same swell, a lot of the same sort of glorious synth parts, and sort of bombastic arena rock energy to it, with this broken inside, like, lyrical theme. It's a nice collection of tracks, for sure. I'm not sure if I put it up there with Strange Desire, but if what I'm talking about sounds interesting to you, definitely worth checking out. Now, Johnny, the song that I showed you, Hate That You Know Me, I'm curious what you thought about that.
It's alright. A little catchy little number.
It features your girl Carly on the backing vocals.
I'm gonna be honest, couldn't even tell.
That was honestly a lot of the reason why I sent that to you. I was curious if you would like to detect that. No. I almost sent Don't Take the Money, because that was like the big lead single. But the thing is, the video is kind of intrusive to the songs. Just full of just great singles on it, and Jack's really good at picking those out.
Sometimes I hate that you know me so well. Sometimes I hate that you know me so well. Some days I wish that I wasn't myself. And I hate that you know me so well.
So while listening to my good old boys from Canada, Death from Above's new record, I remembered that Royal Blood, a band that carries a similar setup to DFA, put out an album this year, and I got into them earlier this year with a couple of their singles from their last record, and I was like, wow, these guys sound a lot like Death from Above 1979. And my friend who showed them to me was like, who the fuck is that? And I was like, I'm about to blow your goddamn mind. So while I showed him Death from Above, he showed me Royal Blood, and I think they're all right. This new record, it's all right. I couldn't help but be distracted by that comparison still, even though they're not as punky as Death from Above gets. It doesn't help that Death from Above's new record also isn't all that punky. But my big issue with the record isn't their setup. I get it. It's hard to make bass and drums sound unique. But when your tone is comparable to another band, but your production doesn't help that tone, it pulls me out of the experience. They're a Death from Above band that sounds like it's produced by Jack White. And that may sound like a great idea.
Jack
White's not a bass guy. He's a guitar guy. And so your bass, I feel like a lot of the punch or power behind that bass, behind that low end, is subtracted by the production on this record. Some of the songs, I mean, they're okay. They're serviceable rock tunes. But I wouldn't say that they dazzle me or they wow me in any way that their predecessors have done. I think they're talented blokes. I think they can play their instruments well. I think their singer does a great job at his job, but ultimately they don't entice me in the way that other bands that have similar setup do.
Yeah, and the song you linked me, like, what came to mind is, like, this basically sounds like what would happen if a Death from Above song was produced for, like, an Arctic Monkeys album.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfect example.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I am a fan of Arctic Monkeys. By the way, guys, where the freaking heck is that AM follow-up? But, yeah, it's not exactly, like, the right fit as far as, like, because there's different facets of fuzzy, garagey, indie rock stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a matter of making sure the pegs fit in the right holes. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and I feel like they just had too many moments on the record. Like even the title track, it's a decent tune, but again, it feels like they are trying to do something that is not within the capabilities of what their setup has or calls for. You know what I mean?
Hey, editing Mark here, just leaving a little note because the audio kept glitching out throughout this episode and I couldn't really edit my way around this one. I was introducing 68 by saying, hey, speaking of duos, here's one that uses their setup better. This is a band called 68.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know they were a duo.
Yeah, so some of you guys might... actually, it says a lot that you couldn't tell they were a duo when you were listening to them. But so I think that a lot of people would probably know the main like vocals and guitar guy, Josh Scoggin, for about the sound. Okay, so everything glitched out for this thing where I'm giving the background. So Josh was previously of the band The Chariot. They had kind of a cult following, and he immediately started this band 68 as a duo in 2014, right after they broke up. Okay. Back to the thing. Because, like, when you think about a rock duo, you think, like, okay, there's some chords, and then there's some drums, and, there's not really much room to make it more, complex than that. Okay, filling in the gaps here. Not there's anything inherently wrong with that, but with the band like 68, they really push it to a ridiculously, like, weird and raw and, like, punchy and degree where it's like there's these crazy twists and turns and stuff. You know what? I think that actually, I'm curious to get your take on it because I don't really know what point to start with, honestly.
I think, that track you linked me in particular, it reminded me of actually a metal band. It reminded me of Every Time I Die. And also it reminded me of Velotac. Two bands that are not rockin' bands. They have a heavier edge to them, but they invoked the same kind of upbeat, almost rock party vibe that the track you linked me had. And I was like, wow. Like, my immediate thought, especially when, like, the guitars and the vocals, like, when everything came in, I was like, okay, so these guys kind of sound like Every Time I Die. I'm all right with that. I'm cool with that. I need more bands like that in my life. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great tune. Like I said, really energetic, really evoked a lot of hype from me. And I thought it was great. I mean, like I said, I didn't know they were a duo. I couldn't tell by the way it was produced or anything that it was two people, which I think is a testament to like how well they know their craft.
Hey, editing Mark again. So around this point was when I made a joke about how the guitar tones on this album are particularly thick in that special kind of way. Unfortunately, it cut out a whole bit we were getting into. It was getting pretty meme-tastic, but I'll just continue it as it was. I need to fix this. Yeah, and Grant.
Because
Anyway,
we're
back
good
on
at
the
what we
review.
do.
Why do we have
No,
any listeners?
It's not. Yeah, for the
This
weems.
rebrand was for nothing. Okay.
We do it for
We do
our
it for the
Yeaties
memes.
promotion.
For
Get our
the
face
for
on the
Yeats.
box of Yeaties. I'm gonna use that line in a song.
Get our face on a box of
And people are gonna
Yeaties.
be like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, it'll be a feature, so you have to take it up with the guy that I do the song with.
I better get royalties for that. As long as you have a rapper that hasn't been on anything before, and then you credit him as fully involved, so that it'll get me more than 5 downloads. And then he'll never put out anything again, and we won't have any legal problems. This bit's going
Yeah.
too far. Where I'm going with that guitar tone is that it's just like this super balls to the wall approach, and also like he shows a bit more versatility as a vocalist on this thing, because like on the first album, there was like a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, which he's very good at for like because he's been doing this kind of hardcore thing for over a decade now. But you also got tracks like Without Any Words and The Workers Are Few, which have more of like a subdued like alt rock approach, which I think could maybe bring in some new listeners, maybe get some alt radio play, but it doesn't feel like a grab for the radio stations. But the point is, like, these tracks, like, they're very unhinged, but at the same time, it sounds like they do still know what they're doing. Like, this is the kind of band where he straight up said, like, there's no set list for their shows. And, like, he's just, like, always done that, and it's just, like, he's just kind of an expert at the art of being super spontaneous but knowing exactly where to go with it. Like the song because you saw on the song that I linked to you, like that song, like it just goes in this it's just got this random like kind of triplet kind of rambling thing that doesn't fit at all, and then it goes straight back into it
that
a few seconds later.
in the way that song was put together, yeah, not in a bad way, but yeah.
Yeah, and the last song I'm gonna single out, Death Is a Lottery, it like doesn't give one single fraction of a shit about time signature. Basically, like it'll go to like 5/8, then 7/8, then 6/8, just depending on how many repetitions of a certain note the guitar riff has. Which I just thought was a really cool move, just to kind of keep the listener on their toes. And as far as lyrically, like again, like with Death Note Above, the lyrics didn't need to matter here, but I think that what kind of pushed it over the top for me was this sort of theme about, I guess, death is like the main theme revolving around this, whether it's thinking like, how are people gonna remember you? Like, do you like remember people when they're gone? How do you cope with that when people leave? That kind of thing. And it can get I keep saying this word, but it's fitting for a lot of the records here, pretty evocative, pretty gripping at some points.
This is a fight! It's a fight! Hold on to the voices in your head! Standing up under the weight of it all, and I'm hoping they see me soon after the storm, but then hope is a four-letter word that I wrote on my fingers when nothing else even came close!
And yeah, I kind of rambled about this thing, but man, this
I was say, Mark, these are supposed to be rapid
Yeah,
fire, man.
dude,
It's been going on for like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, man.
This thing just really caught me off, because like I was expecting to like this thing, but it just totally caught me off guard with how much I was just like, because hardcore stuff is kind of hard for me to get into, so it's like when something like this comes around where I'm just totally engrossed in it, like it's worth talking about.
I mean, it's supposed to be. I mean, yeah, I feel the same way about Dalek, but you gotta just bring it. It's supposed to be rapid
I can
fire, man.
edit.
Trying to bring
I
you
can
back in.
edit.
I'm just trying to say for time's sake, because there's other shit I gotta do before I go to work.
Sorry. I'll edit.
I'm just saying.
So yeah.
You can't edit you can't edit the fact that I gotta.
Not
do
with that
shit.
kind of attitude.
So the next record that I'm recommending is a positive one. Went from a negative to a positive. And I checked this out because it's been on my list. It was one of the better ranked records of the year for this year on Rate Your Music, and that's the new Elder record, Reflections of a Mirror World. And I never heard of these guys before. I'd never really seen anything about them. And I was kind of shocked when I looked at the track listing and found that almost every song was over like 10 minutes long. But I didn't see that as a bad thing, but as a challenge. You know, I always proclaim Francis the Mute's my favorite Mars Volta record, so I dove into this with open ears, and it's really good. It doesn't feel like it drags on at all. I kind of describe it as if Mastodon did the smoother moments from Crack the Sky all the time in the same soundscape.
You know, I gotta say, I'm so glad you mentioned Mastodon, because I was thinking Mastodon when I was listening to that 13-minute song you sent me, and I'm so glad that wasn't just my surface level metal knowledge talking.
No, I definitely got those vibes too, especially how the vocals sound and how the guitars are produced. And all of the songs have these really, I wouldn't say they're passages or movements, it's all just kind of a lot of atmosphere, and they play with that really well while introducing new riff ideas. And the band sounds really tight, and apparently this is like, they're more known for being a little bit heavier, so that has me excited to check out their Golden Age material, because if they can do that style and that, like, keep that interest with smoother, softer sounds, it'd be interesting to see how they sound with heavier sounds behind them, heavier production and heavier ideas behind them. But I genuinely enjoyed it. It's one that I love, but I won't be revisiting as much in the year, only because every song is so goddamn long. But it was a great time. If you like, you know, heavier, psychedelic influenced, progressive rock, pseudo metal, sludgy stuff, it's totally up your alley. It's a damn fine listen.
Yeah, I was definitely a fan of the track you sent me. Might have to go a little more into that, because I have been definitely falling behind in my, more than usual, definitely been falling behind in my metal this year.
Well, and that's another good thing about it, is it's kind of it's another gateway. It's not all heavy, it's just very drenched in heavy ideas without being so harsh and too brutal. Yeah.
I feel you. Although, as you can tell from my last recommendation, I'm perfectly fine with harsh.
For sure.
Points.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm glad that you liked that. When you linked me that, I was surprised. When you linked me 68, I was like, Mark's listening to these guys?
And actually, I made that my Patreon request for Crash.
Yeah.
Just because
cool.
I really want to know what you think about that. Oh, and I just realized, throughout that entire gushing session, I didn't mention the name of the album. It's called Two Parts Viper.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And their live shows are awesome too. Okay. Now, so that's cool, the older thing. Now, for my next one, I'm gonna stay in the rock realm, but you know, maybe in toward the rock realm. I'm gonna be talking about the new Alice Cooper album. Paranormal. So obviously, a guy needs no introduction. You know, he's been around for freaking half a century.
Who is Alice Cooper, Mark? Who the fuck is this guy?
You know, some people probably, I don't know. But anyway, so, like, it's weird because, like, I like saying that I'm, like, a big fan of, like, just Alice Cooper, just, like, as, like, an entity. And I have heard a handful of his albums, but it's the kind of thing where it's, like, I can't really say that in good conscience because I still haven't gotten into, like, a third of it just because his catalog is so ridiculously massive.
Yeah.
Just in the quantity alone.
Oh, for sure.
I think it's probably like his 20-something album at this point, maybe even 30-something. I don't even know. But this album, Paranormal, so it came 6 years after Welcome to My Nightmare, number 2, sequel to that album, which I thought that album was really underrated. It kind of went all over the place. This album, it's not really as ambitious, but I don't think it's trying to be. You know, it's sort of like he said himself in interviews, like, unlike the last few albums, there's really no concept going throughout this. Like, it's just, you know, 10 or 12 really solid rock songs, you know, about people with something slightly abnormal about them.
Yeah.
Or paranormal about them. And, you know, it's nothing revolutionary. It's nothing that's, like, a complete reinvention for the guy. But the fact that the songs are as solid and quality as they are, I think, really has to be commended.
I mean, I think I'm gonna be honest. I have a lot of his back discography on my hard drive. I don't hate Alice Cooper, but I don't like him as much as I feel like I should, given his propensity as a stage performer and stuff. I think when he's good, he's pretty damn good. I wouldn't say he's great. But he has more often than not very mediocre styles. Like I don't really like Schools Out. I think a lot of his singles, especially, I feel like Poison, it's kind of a mediocre song. He more shines when he really dives into an album and he like gives it his time. And I haven't heard anything from the record other than the song you sent me. When it was an okay track. Definitely felt Alice Cooper-y. I don't think it's bad. I definitely think that it's something to listen to around like the fall Halloween times. It definitely fits that theme a little more. It feels more akin to what an Alice Cooper song would sound like than even some of his popular Golden Age stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I liked the imagery that he was singing about. I liked the atmosphere. It almost kind of reminded me of like a more toned down Nightmare from Avenged Sevenfold. It wasn't as heavy, but it had the same, and evoked the same mindset behind me. And that's not a bad thing.
I totally get that.
I enjoyed
it. Of course, Avenged Sevenfold probably pretty heavily influenced, so it all circles back, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it was a good cut. I don't know if it didn't make me want to clamor to listen to the record like the '68 cut that you sent me, but if I feel like if it comes down to it and I'm still looking for records to listen to, I'll probably throw on the new Ali Cooper, see what he's up to these days.
Yeah. The song I sent you is probably one of the more like serious and like atmospheric ones on there. The other tracks on there, I think they show a little bit more of his like more goofy tongue-in-cheek side, which I think kind of separates him from other like sort of quote-unquote shock rock acts to like follow him or maybe come around the same time. Is that he's not really too up his own ass about it. You know, there's always kind of a smirk to what he's doing for the most part, and especially you get that a lot on like songs like Fireball and Dynamite Road, which sort of present these almost like kind of tragic situations like car crashes and like Fireball Armageddons, but just in this kind of ridiculous way. Holy Water almost has like a gospel touch or sort of it almost has like a church choir kind of quality to it, and just like how like celebratory it is. And I will say it can get kind of like into dad joke territory on like Fallen in Love, where the title line is "I've fallen in love and I can't get up."
That's pretty bad.
Even though I think it's a solid cut overall. Like it's got Billy Gibbons on guitar and you can really feel that. And actually, I'm not sure you probably don't know, the whole album actually has Larry Mullen Jr. on drums.
I didn't know that.
And
I don't know anything about this
record.
record.
And he brings kind of and I'm not going to ramble about this like I did with 68, but he brings kind of a unique touch, like especially like, he kind of maybe puts in some interesting little hi-hat patterns where people would normally put in a tom pattern, like little touches like that to kind of separate it from the usual hard rock drumming out there. Which, as a drummer, I'm sure that, if you listen through it, you could probably find some stuff in there.
Yeah.
And there's also a couple tracks at the end where he actually reunites with the original band from the first few albums, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
And yeah, good thing to check out. The album cover is a little cringy, but I'll overlook that.
I mean, it's Alice Cooper. I wouldn't imagine him in his older years to present anything that truly invokes the same minds. I mean, even his Welcome to My Nightmare cover art doesn't necessarily fit. It fits him, but it doesn't fit the idea or title of welcoming someone to their nightmare.
Yeah, I think that's a classic cover personally, but it's like this one's just like it's kind of like a bad promo picture where it's just like it's this CG like two head thing where it's like in one he's kind of scowling and in one he's given like a grr face, and it's like that's the best you could do. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I guess you can't really, ask. For the quality that we got, I can't really complain too much.
Yeah.
Like a spider web kiss on your face. That familiar smell, just a trace. That's my scent that I left on your lace. So you're never alone. No, you're never alone.
But okay, what's your next one?
So these last two were recommendations from friends. One I really liked, the other I didn't. But I'm gonna get to the one I liked first. Keep it again.
Cool.
Or no, I'm not. I'm gonna end on a high note. I'm gonna start off on a low note. Next record I'm listening to, or I'm talking about, is one that I don't recommend people listen to because I'm a glutton for punishment. But it's the new Joyner Lucas, or the debut Joyner Lucas mixtape album. I don't know what the fuck it is. This guy, Joyner Lucas, he's a rapper. He's influenced by a lot of the same quote-unquote real rap, jock rap dudes like Crooked Eye and people that I used to really
Jock rap?
listen to.
What do you mean by that?
Jock rap meaning like that very macho machismo mentality of I'm the realist, I'm the hardest,
Okay.
I'm better than anybody else. People like Crooked Eye, modern Tech Nine, dudes like that are like, I'm the best, I'm hard, I'm better than anybody in the industry. And while I like some of his influences, I used to like him a lot more than I do now. Marcus Hobson is another jock rap sort of dude. Joyner Lucas is atrocious. My buddy recommended it to me, telling me he thinks I thought it would be one of the best records I'd heard of the year, and I felt really bad when I hated it. It's not that I necessarily think it's all horrible. Some of the ideas on the album are good. There's a song called Keep It 100 where it talks about the journey of a $100 bill. Interesting concept, executed decently. But when you can't get the fundamentals of rapping down, when I'm sitting there distracted by the fact that I don't think you're keeping in time, when I'm sitting there listening to a song clapping with the tempo, and I feel like I'm focusing on more how you flow, that's a problem. And it doesn't help that the album is bloated. There's too much on here. Joyner Lucas's persona sucks. The production is super cliche and mediocre, and god damn, this thing is horrible, Mark. It's fucking bad. And one of the songs I sent you was an example of that.
Okay, because I was curious, because I didn't, because the song you sent me, I forgot, Just Like You. I mean, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, I thought it had, in theory, it had kind of a nice message to it, but it was very corny, it was very on the nose, very blunt, very Hobson.
Yeah.
It was very Hobson.
Yeah, he's very...
I was getting a lot of Illmind 5 flashbacks for sure.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, that's another one of those songs.
And sorry, it isn't really anything that I don't think like even Lupe tackled better on ITAL.
Yeah.
Or a song like that.
Well, and that was another one of those songs where I had to sit there and listen, because there are parts where he's off on the measure, and I was like, huh? Is he back? Oh, he's back on the measure. Okay, it's okay. It's like a game with him.
Yeah, and the weird thing about the verses is that they end a bar too soon.
Yeah.
And at first I was thinking is this an artistic decision because it's showing man, I'm just so tired. Let's just go to the chorus. But now that by the way you're describing it, it sounds like maybe it is just incompetence.
He was off a measure, and they just let the measure run. He ended the measure. He ended on the down or on the second beat of the last measure. And they didn't edit that at all, and it's fucking bad, man. I'm sorry.
It's a shame because I did hear some buzz about the guy, and the first time I'd heard of him was when the Rap Critic, I believe, a couple years ago put a song of his at #1 on his best lyrics of 20, was it 15 or 16 or something, and it was this super serious sad song about suicide or something.
Yeah, he's got some good
ideas.
ideas.
I kind of want to root for the guy, but obviously I would listen to the album before having my own take on it, but it's kind of sad hearing what you're saying.
I mean,
honestly,
if you want to give it a try, if you think you can dabble with the real quote unquote real rap crowd, go for it, man. I'm just tired of the real rap shtick, and I feel like he was my breaking point. He was my point where I was like, all right, yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done with jock rap.
Okay.
You so goddamn judgmental, and I don't wanna look. I don't wanna be nothing like you. I don't wanna be anything like you. I don't wanna be just like you.
Okay, so let's go from from a rap guy, from a hip hop guy that suffers from maybe being a little would you say pretentious or up on his own ass is a good descriptor?
Yeah, it's a great descriptor for Joyner Lucas.
Okay, perfect. Taking himself too seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the complete opposite side of that and talk about Amine.
Yeah.
So I linked you 2 songs for this for a very distinct reason, because you hadn't heard Caroline, right?
No.
So this is a song that was a massive hit last year. I think it gone to the top 20, and it's at this point the only song that the general public knows him for. And the only reason why I linked you that, so I linked you that, and then a song on the totally opposite side of the spectrum called Turf. And the reason I did that is because I kind of wanted to show Caroline's basically, it's probably the most contemporary hip hop styled what you'd expect in mainstream hip-hop style thing on the album. And it's by no means like a sellout radio song. Like, the guy produced it himself and just put it up on the internet one day, and it just blew up. So I don't think it's some kind of, label thing, even though he is on the XXL freshman list for this year.
Yeah.
But it's like that song, like even then for that song, like it's got kind of an sort of a fun, bouncy beat to it. What I like is that with guys like this, or like Drum, or like Chance on his last album, was like just got these guys that, people sort of forgive these trap guys that are coming through. Oh boy, another gap to fill, but what I was going to say is that, people give the defense for these sort of trappish guys in, like, the mainstream hip-hop world now, by saying, like, oh, forget about the lyrics, it's all about the vibe and stuff, but meanwhile, the beats they're rapping over are, like, really dark and stuff, and I'm wondering, like, how does this fit into the pop, like, sphere of the hip-hop world, whereas people like the people I'm listening in addition to me, and I actually really get the job done with that, and actually pull off that rapping, singing, hybrid stuff a lot better, because people like this can actually, construct a coherent melody, I
was gonna say the I didn't actually listen to Caroline, I only listened to Turf, but Turf reminded me of Flatbush Zombies to a degree, and I really liked that. It wasn't as Quaalude as that, but I thought it was pretty close. It was really good. I liked the tone of that song. I liked the atmosphere, and I liked his rapping on it, and I loved the chorus. I loved the singing. I thought it was really well put together.
That and Sundays are the two most like serious songs in the album, and they do come back to back. So there's a very nice flow, because you can see between this and I'd recommend you listen to Caroline after this, kind of get an idea of the totally opposite side of the spectrum. Because you also got a song like Wedding Crashers, which is maybe my favorite on here, but I felt weird about making it like your first impression, because it does have a verse from Offset. It's just about like talking down to this girl that you were with that's like else now. It's a little bit dickish, but I just got into it so much. And then there's the song Heebie Jeebies that closes it out with Kehlani, which is another kind of great pop song. So definitely worth checking out. I think that everything else the guy's been doing has kind of been slept on, which is...
And I commend that more than a lot of things when it comes to versatility. I feel like is more important than a lot of things when it comes to hip-hop.
Caroline, don't you see that? I want you to be mine. Bad things, fine as hell, thick as fuck. Oh my God, that's my baby, Caroline. Packed up my bags, told mom and dad I gotta go. And once I do, they finally see the inner me. Everybody wanna be a star. Everybody want a nice car. Everybody want to live great, have a good damn time, never trip with the law.
And okay, what's your last one?
My last one is another recommendation from a friend. It was a different friend recommended me the new Rex Orange County record, Apricot Princess. And I didn't know what to expect. Her last recommendation was the latest Sid record. So I figured it might have been, I didn't know if it was going to be in the same vein or not. It kind of is. It's not as drab R&B. It's more kind of upbeat, poppy R&B with a little bit of an indie rock flair on some tracks. And I thought it was really interesting. The little amounts of versatility that the guy showcases on the record are pretty good. The guy, he's good at writing kind of sunshiny, lovey songs without being too fucking cutesy. He's not, the best thing in the world I've heard, but he's a hell of a lot better than some of the other stuff I've checked out this year. The record itself, it's pretty consistent, even if it does dabble in different ideas or genre ideas on some cuts. But by the by, it's pretty sweet. It's pretty glossy. The guy's got a good voice. The guy carries himself well with enough confidence. That I feel like it works. It was a sweet enjoyment listen that I wanted to throw your way, because I figured you'd actually get a kick out of it more than I did. Yeah.
The guy's called Rex Orange County. Like I'm basically like right next to Orange County right now. So hey,
here's the spoiler. He's from England.
Oh, then screw him. He's a poser.
So I'm like,
This is friggin' Lana and West Coast all over again, isn't it?
But well, I mean, it's not as bad. It's more consistent. It's more upbeat. Talk about Lana it's got some quality behind it. The reason why she recommended it to me is because he's going to be at Camp Flognaw, which doesn't unfit. Like, I feel like his sound fits in with the more upbeat stuff that Tyler's fiddled with here and there. Tyler, the creator, for those who don't know what I'm talking about.
Really?
It's good.
I wouldn't expect a connection between. Oh,
The
you mean
festival,
the festival
yeah,
is?
it's Camp Flognaw.
Oh, I was about
Yeah.
to say, like, man, Tyler's new album must be really different.
It is very different, but yeah, it's.
They were comparing
yeah,
it musically.
I'm talking about
Okay.
more like it's. He fits with that crowd in a way that may not make sense at first, but the more you listen to it, it's like, no, I can see that. It's got some shareability within that circle. But yeah, I thought it was good, and I feel like that out of the ones that I recommended, that would be the one that you would have enjoyed the most.
Okay, yeah, the song I listened to, it was a nice little duet.
yeah.
You know, it had a nice little back and forth to it. It was a little longer. It was like I was checking like 3.5 minutes in, like, really, there's another minute to this. But aside from that, it's all cut. I like this guy's got good ability.
And it's not a day that I won't be yours. And I'm glad I'm not alone anymore. Is this too good to be true? Can't you see I'm just a fool? Because I need to know.
Yeah, and the last one I'm going to be talking about, this has a very interesting kind of backstory to it. So we were talking earlier, I forgot if this was before or after we started recording, but you were talking about Apple stuff, and this is sort of has a weird sort of connection, and there's a reason why I'm getting into it now. So this is the new EP from Emma Blackery called Magnetized, and so what happened is at this Apple event, they were talking about like music-related stuff. And, you know, on the big screen, they showed a few album covers. Like, there was Lorde, there was some other one, and right in the middle was this Emma Blackery EP. And granted, it's not like she's a totally unknown artist. Like, actually, so I've been, you know, I reviewed her EP from last year, and she's mostly known as a YouTuber, like, as like a vlogger, sort of. But, like,
I remember you bringing up this girl now. Yeah.
But like, a not bad one, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, Vlogger brings some connotations to it. But, I've been a fan of her channel for a few years now. You know, she's put out, like, basically an EP, like, every, like, year or two or so. And to, like, decent success, but it's been on a pretty independent level, you know?
Yeah.
But, so, like, when this came around, just, like, this sudden burst of exposures, like, it just kind of brought on this new wave of stuff. Like, she's been having like a ridiculous amount of exposure and stuff, and this EP came out a couple months ago, and you know, I just kind of had it in my backlog, even though I did definitely want to get around to it, and so I figured now would be a good time, and it's a good collection of tracks. The funny thing is that this is probably her poppiest collection of tracks yet. Like, the EP Sucks to You from last year was definitely more of like a pop punk kind of mold. Okay. In a way, whereas this, like, there's a little bit more lushness to the production, maybe a little bit more reverb in some of the instruments, but it doesn't sound like it's hopping on any kind of bandwagons.
I was gonna say the song you linked me to kind of reminded me of early Kate Nash, like Kate Nash's debut sort of stuff. Not in a bad way. It's great fucking atmosphere, great tone. I really liked that song a lot. I thought it was cool. But that kind of tongue-in-cheek bitterness behind a very sunshiny soundscape, it definitely evoked the emotions of that early Kate Nash stuff. Not in a bad way, again. Made me want to listen to it more. And I'm glad that she's getting that kind of exposure because she's a talented person. Yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah.
That was a good cut.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that because that's kind of a lot of the appeal of, like, the stuff on her YouTube stuff is that there's kind of a lot of snark, you know, it's a lot of that kind of British sense of humor in a way. Maybe there's a little bit of dryness, a lot of sarcasm, a lot of wit, and up to this point, like, it didn't really come across too much. Like, she was writing kind of more traditional kind of pop singer-songwriter-y type stuff. Whereas this time around, like, there's a lot more personality, especially in some of the situations in the lyrics, which I really appreciated. I mean, you know, I'm not going to go really into that in depth because we really have to get going soon.
Yeah.
But But yeah, if you saw the album, the cool looking kind of cover on that, and thought, hey, I want to check that out,
Do it.
Do that. So it's good. It's good to kind of poppy stuff that maybe could use a little bit of crossover.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I could definitely see that, and I could see it becoming popular. That's why I want it to become popular, because it's not bad.
I wish I could take my time and show you that I'll be fine. 'Cause I would be nothing without you. Nothing without you.
Yeah. Yeet.
Yeaties. Get your Yeaties.
It all comes back. It all comes back
It
to
all
Yeaties.
comes back to Yeaties. This is the Yeaties cast. What?
Yeah, you know what? I see. I jumped the gun on the rebranding. That's what we should have named the podcast. Yeaties.
No, that's our award show. At the end of the year, we bestow our favorites of the things, the prestigious Yeaties Award.
Oh my god! I just got an idea for at the end of the year when we do like the superlative or do like the list for like songs that should have
That's
been
what I'm
hits or
saying.
like albums that are
Yeah.
too long. Like and the Yeatie for weirdest shift in genre goes to Kid Cudi.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's our prestigious award that we bestow to those that we deem the best of a certain attribute, for better or for worse. The Yeaties. And it's literally a Wheaties box that we put a Y on.
Now I'm okay. So it's spelled YEAT. So that's canon now, right?
I guess, yeah. That's. I mean, it's YEEYEA. It's both. It can be both. Yeaties. However, it's like. Yeah.
I see. Is it like a spelling color with a U in the UK kind of thing?
Exactly.
Okay, I feel you. I see. I was picturing like it could be almost like the name of like some pop band in the '60s. Next up on the Alex Sullivan Show, the Yeaties.
And they play like sunshiny pop a la Donovan. Yeah.
Okay, I think that sums it all up for this episode. It's nice that the fact that we got 2 hours of content here. I'll probably pare it down a little bit because we had some technical difficulties. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this, stick around because we're going to be hopefully actually committing to the every other week thing. Whether or not it's the same kind of thing as this, maybe we'll pepper in some news stories, maybe some interviews, maybe some just whatever else. And yeah, subscribe on iTunes if you haven't already. That's the most convenient way to get this. If you're on iTunes, check out the YouTube channel. It's not confusingly called Spinner Reviews anymore. Now it's called Mad Sounds, so you won't have to get all that brand confusion right there.
We're all one brand. My brand!
Yeah.
That's where we are.
Yes.
I have specialized.
You know what? Maybe the type of cereal that Yeaties is bran flakes.
My brand. You don't know that video, do you? I gotta link you that video.
No. I think I do. It's on tip of my tongue.
Is that Mass Effect?
It's on tip of my yeet. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh wait. Actually, yeah. Now that you mention it, I did watch that.
My brand.
Like 5 years ago or
I
something.
have specialized.
Yeah, I remember when it was meme to crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because like you know what it was is that like back, and this is gonna sound so weird, but like back in the peak of like my brony phase, hear me out. Back in like 2012 or 13, like they would just like use ponies to meme the crap out of anything that was on the internet at the time, and that was one of them, and that's just how I found out about that. It's actually how I found out about this one time at Bandcamp, because they would just randomly put like for American Pie, they would just like put like these random references in the comments.
Yeah.
And that's basically how I found out about all of my pop culture knowledge to this day.
Hey, at least you found it somewhere.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's cool.
We gotta get on.
We gotta rippity rap. Thanks again for tuning in. Be sure to leave us a comment or leave us a review on the iTunes. Really helps us make the show better. Helps us know what you want to hear. Lets us know what you want us to talk about and stuff.
Yeah, and we covered a lot of ground here. If you have any thoughts on any of the records we covered here, have any questions where you want us to go a little bit more in depth on it, I'm down for the conversation.
Absolutely.
That's why I basically abandoned the videos for this, because I like the back and forth. I like me a 1 back and 1 forth.
Yeah. As do I. I like talking about music, for better or for worse. If I like it or not, I like talking about music. I'm a glutton for punishment.
In this case, it was definitely for the better. Like, there's a weird streak of really good stuff, because there was like a while, like a month or two ago, where it was just like constant 5s and 6s.
Oh yeah, no,
So-
I have been the king of the 6 this year, and it's sad. But yeah,
666, the number of the yeets.
the number of the sad, the number of the disappointment. That's what that's what I'm saying.
That's bye.